Hey traders, Raghi here, and what I want to talk to you about is something that we will have many more conversations about, but I want to introduce the topic right now, and that topic is contrast. Now what we're looking at here is a heat map from Awanda. I'm not playing favorites with brokers, I just happen to think this is a great visual for understanding the individual currency story, which you can see along the center in gray. What is the relative performance of each one of these currencies against the others? So if I'm looking at the individual currency story and the relative performance of the US dollar against these other currencies, and this is actually going back over the course of the last 1 month, I can see that right now on a 1 month relative performance, the US dollar is stronger than all of these right now. These are all progressively weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. So your best contrast is to buy US dollars and sell euro. And the closer you get back up to the US dollar on this scale, right, the less contrast there is. So, for example, buying US dollars and selling pound makes very little sense. And increasingly, again, buying US dollars, selling New Zealand makes very little sense. And the further away you get, the more contrast you have. Okay, let's do this with another example. Let's grab another terrific story, and that's the euro. Right now, the euro is really weak. It's my favorite individual currency story right now. Now, lazy analysis would be, oh, go ahead and just sell the euro against everything, right? Wrong. So, where's the best contrast? Sell euro, buy US dollars. Sell euro, buy pound. Sell euro, consider buying New Zealand dollar, yen, Canada, until you get down to the least contrast. Now, I'm not saying every one of these is a trade. This is like casting a wide, large net into the water. I'm casting a net to see what I can consider. Right? I'm not going to keep everything in the net. Right? I'm going to toss some stuff back into the ocean. Right? So I do know that I'm very interested in the contrast that is selling euro, buying US dollar, pound, and New Zealand dollar. Those are the top three in terms of contrast. And then the bottom three, and it doesn't have to be three, but I'm just splitting this up. The bottom three in terms of contrast is yen, Canadian dollar, and Australian dollar. What do I do with this list? Well, let me show you here. Let's go to the charts. So I'm going to pull up the first and best contrast according to that hierarchy, that heat map on the list, euro versus US. So the question now is, does this pair have directional bias? Is there a consistency in the red grab candles and a 4 to 6 o'clock angle in the wave? Yes. So what do I have here? I have good contrast, and that contrast then is represented in a downtrend. All right, what was the next pair that had good contrast? Euro versus pound. Once again, do I have consistency in the red grab candles? Yes. Do I have a 4 to 6 o'clock angle? Not for very long, but yes, there is a fresh downtrend on this pair, meaning the organization of euro weakness and pound strength has now given us weakness that we can call a downtrend when I use the 34 EMA wave and the grab candles. What about the euro versus New Zealand? Once again, red grab candles, yes. 4 to 6 o'clock angle, again, yes. So what do we have? And let me contrast that with the currency that had the least contrast, Euro Aussie. Now the euro has been so weak. Even here, it's obviously visually not anywhere near as clear as, say, euro pound that we just looked at, right? Not as clear, but it's still a decent euro short. But here's the thing. The euro's weak, which is why we have some reasonable amount of consistency in the red grab candles and a pretty decent, although lumpy, 4 to 6, right? But why isn't it clear? Why isn't it clearer than it is? Because the Australian dollar isn't all that strong. Contrast means I've got weakness on one side of the pair, strength on the other. And if you seek out contrast, if you look for pairs that have contrast, you have a better chance of finding follow through. You have a better chance of finding market clarity. And at the end of the day, what I really am, looking for those long-term trends as a long-term trend trader. So I hope this conversation of contrast gets you curious. It won't be the last conversation that we have. And I hope you think about these types of relationships to an individual currency story back to the other currencies that you may want to pit against it, and how you can start to prioritize what may be a really good contrast compared to one that maybe is a little bit narrower, a good wide contrast versus a narrow contrast. Okay, I'll see you in the next update. If you have any questions, leave them here.